Okay, time to do the side blades for Psylocke. So what they did is they sort of tried to give it like a clear pink into it, but they really didn't go overboard. And then this one over here, they really didn't even add much to it at all. So we're going to kind of make it pop a little bit more. So the best way of doing this is, I'm not really seeing any parts on the side blades where I got to sand and buff it out. They look pretty good. And once we kind of clear them up, they'll look pretty good that way. So right here is a plastic adhesion promoter from Duplicolor. It's basically like a clear primer. This is something you definitely want to add onto your item first, just so you get, you know, bonding of any kind of paint chemicals and stuff like that. Now, there's a couple ways of doing this coloring. One, we have this magenta from Badger. I really like this magenta. If you do this very lightly and you get it on your items pretty well, you can still see a transparency, but it'll pop. What I did in the past is whenever I used to do this, I used to mix a little bit of this Alclad Aqua Gloss. The reason why I have it in this bottle is because the bottle that came with it actually broke. So I just wanted to salvage it and I put it in there. You can mix some of this aqua gloss in with a drop or two of this, and you can slowly build it up over time, and once it cures, it gives you a nice coat. Now, if you don't want to do that, and you want them to be really shiny and kind of like glow a little bit more, you could do Duplicolor gloss paint, which I might do. It all depends on what you're going for. When I used to do the bubble gums for Harley Quinn's, those Harley Quinn premium formats back in the day, what I would do is I would do the aqua gloss because I had way more control over it to keep going to the point where I got it to be transparent and semi-transparent without it being overdone. Because with a round bubble, if you spray too much on one side, you screw it all up. So that's why I would blow dry the bubble gum with the blow dryer, hit it with the aqua gloss with some of the magenta, slowly build it up to them, get to the point where I made it look like bubble gum, and then around the mouth area I would put a very hint of white paint in with the magenta and slowly hit it, because you know when you hit like bubble gum, as the bubble gum stretches, the bigger part of the bubble gum that's away from your face starts to get transparent, while the part around your mouth is still kind of thicker and it's a little bit harder to see through it. But with these side blades, we want it to look a little bit more glowing. So I'm not going to do the aqua gloss on it. I think once we get the adhesion promoter on there, and I kind of miss some of this opaque onto it, and I slowly build it up. Once it's set up and I get the pieces done, I'll hit it with a perfect match on it, and we'll make it glow a little bit more. So it'll look more side blade, I guess, than like a bubble gum on, like, you know, someone's blowing a piece of bubble gum. That's kind of what I'm going for. The only problem is this piece is going to be a little bit tricky only because of the way it holds it, so I'm going to have to sort of do an area, seal it up, kind of flip it, twist it, and do stuff like this. These are fine. I just got to be careful of this one kind of falling down, so I just got to find a better way of probably doing this. I might have to put this in a piece of wood, because this is going to go in our hand, so we won't see this part. So maybe I'll get a piece of wood and I'll put it in there so this way I could kind of work with it a little bit better. So let me get set up. We'll have these sprayed down and we'll start coating it. Alright, so if you go straight out of the bottle like I'm doing and you spray far away, as long as you have that primer on there, you should be able to start getting a nice good side blade color with the magenta, as you can sort of see. I'm spraying far away, I'm misting it. You know, I'm not trying to get too close. Let the paint sort of speckle around. It really doesn't take that much depending on how much you want on there. And you start to get a really nice side blade color. Now it's important that these two are as close as possible. Now see, what would happen is if you don't have that primer on there and spraying it far away or even up close, it'll start to bleed. This primer stuff really helps you get that color on there and stay. It really bonds to it pretty well. But this magenta from Badger is a very strong color. Spray too close and you'll start to lose your transparency. Now there was a little bit of a weird thing here from the ink that was on that blade, so I kind of want to see if I can blend it all together. like that and make it look a little bit more uniform. And I think that's like fairly good for that piece. But we want everything to be uniform. We want both parts to be there. So this one's a little bit more tricky. Only because of the way it's positioned. It's a little. I try to set it up in a few other ways, but this is kind of the best way I could come up with. So you think of it, if you're spraying it this way, and then you turn it, and you turn the spray here and here, it's going to get thick. So if you sprayed it really thick here, it will look cool, but when you turn it, you know, you just got to keep going with it. Now, be careful a little bit about this. Now this one was a little bit thicker piece. Now when we gloss coat it, it'll all clear up a little bit more. Not much, but it'll definitely clear up. So we want to make sure we're looking as close to these two as possible, which we're looking pretty good. You don't have to go that far. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to let that set up a bit, just to kind of give it some time to dry. And then after that, we'll start gloss coating it with the car paint. Alright, so it's been a little while. Pretty much just grab your can of gloss and just make sure it sprays right. Give it a nice coating, all depending on how far you want to take it. And then pretty much just let it dry up. Same thing with this one here. Make sure that this doesn't fall over. But what happens is it sort of helps kind of clear it up a bit. Gets rid of that cloudiness in there. It's kind of hard to tell, but the clear really kind of helps bring it together. But make sure you get some nice coating on it. You don't want to bleed it though. Always be careful, don't go bleeding it. And an important thing is, when you do this, you can't even touch it. Like if you touch it with your fingerprint or your nail, you accidentally drop it or something, it's going to pretty much ruin it, especially in an area like the blade. So all I'm really doing is kind of clear coating it now. Just gonna seal it up and then just walk away from it and just let it cure up for the night. And that's pretty much it on clearing it. It's not that hard. It's just always just taking your time, not overdoing it, making it look good, and that's it. Now, like I said, if at any point, maybe, okay, say this part was way too red, because like the darker you get, you can't take a step back, so you always go later. But with this one and this one, I think we're looking good. If for any reason I feel like, oh, you know what, this needs to be hit a little bit more to match this, or that needs to match that, you might want to think about, okay, sort of hitting it with the adhesion promoter again, hitting it with your paint, and then clear coating it again. You don't want to go too many layers. You don't want to keep going over and over and over. But if you're careful and you're a little bit, you know, wary about it, and you kind of play it up, you'll work it out. But what'll happen is if you try to hit it with this, you know, magenta on the stuff that you already cleared, like say this cures up tonight, and it's nice good candy coating tomorrow, and say you wanted to add a little bit more magenta into this part or that part, you might bleed it because it will be a nice smooth candy surface, so it might bleed again. So that's what you got to think about. But I'm pretty happy with the way they look. I think they should be pretty good once all cured up. So I'm going to leave on the airbrush booth for a while to take out these fumes, let them cure up, and then start moving on to the next stuff. Alright, so I got a little bit of the magenta in my airbrush, and all I'm going to do is sort of just hit it in some areas here. Just so it looks like when it's kind of glowing onto the hand a bit. Nothing too crazy. And then for this hand, same thing. So this one has a lot more. Just want to see where it's landing on the hand. That's pretty much it. Nothing too crazy. It'll make it'll work a little bit better. Let me get this off my hand so I don't drop the airbrush. And that just kind of looks like it's glowing on the hand a bit more. And that works out pretty well there. Let's look at this piece real quick. Make sure. Alright, so it's just a matter of doing base coats. I'm not detailing any of this yet. It's just a matter of let's get a coat of paint on these colors, and then I can start dry brushing, washing, and just kind of have fun with this stuff. Looking at all the elements on the base, there is a sort of a rock on the base, but we'll do that sort of a different color. But we have these three big rocks here. We have the branch, and we have the leaves for the tree. So for the rock, this is a bottle of just mixed, old paints I put together. Anytime I mix up extra paints in a cup and I have a lot, I throw it in this bottle so I don't waste it. So this has got a lot of different colors in there, but it's kind of like a really darker gray now. We have a dark green I'm going to do on the tree branch area stuff here. And then for the branches, the wooden stuff, we have mahogany, which is kind of a darker reddish color. That's going to be like the darker area. Then once I do dry brushing and washing, we'll make it more of like an older wood, not too clean, not too fresh, but not too dark either. We'll kind of come with a middle ground. So it's just a matter of doing all these colors. And it doesn't really matter if this sort of blends in with this and stuff, because once I kind of mask it off and I dry brush, it'll come together. So we'll just kind of fast forward this part just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Alright, so there you go. It's not, these aren't set colors. Don't think if this is like, oh my god, we're going to do like these dark browns and rock. We got a lot more to go on this, wash and dry brush and all kinds of stuff. It's just a matter of just slapping some color down and just let it dry. So this way when we're ready to work on it again later, in the next day or two, it's pretty much dried up and we can kind of go over it. This is what I like to do. It's kind of something that in art school, one of my art professors, who is an amazing guy in my elective class, he just says, you put down your color and then you run with it on top of it. Just get your color down. If you're doing, think of it as if you're doing a acrylic painting. Say you're doing a Hulk, just Incredible Hulk, and you have the whole entire figure of Hulk. You throw down some green, washes on the color of your drawing. You throw down some purples on the pants, just to get some color down, and then you start going in and you detailing. You start adding thicker paints, lighter paints, highlights, darks, and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm doing with this. Plus, it's always good to let this dry a few days, so this way when you start handling it, you don't start ripping up the paint. You let it kind of really dry on the, the primed item. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And one other thing too is if you notice there's silly putty on top of all the metal pieces and the holes on those. So this way when you throw paint on that, it doesn't fill it up and makes it harder to attach these pieces with the magnet. So always keep that in mind too when you're doing stuff with metal rods. keep those metal rods nice and clean. Otherwise, if you put primer and paints on it, it doesn't go into the keyhole very well and you run into issues. So that's pretty much it for today. We'll come back either tomorrow or the next day and we'll start sealing everything up, and we're just gonna explain to you that this is what I did today. I got to do other stuff now. We let this stuff dry, come back another day and do it. So don't try and rush your stuff. Take your time and stuff like that. Now, one thing real quick though on those leaves, I probably still got some more green to kind of get into some areas. There might be some white primer and stuff showing. I'll do that later, but right now I hit it as much as I could. We'll let it dry and we'll come back. The other thing too is I don't mind handling these three items here, the leaves, the rock, and the branch. I don't mind manhandling it right now because if any paint comes off, I can go on and add it more, and we'll just keep adding it. So don't worry about if you mess up a little bit. Like say, I picked this up by accident, a little bit of the paint came off. It's just a base coat. You can add more until you start detailing. Alright, so while the figure is drying up and curing after doing my sealing, I'm going to start painting up the rock base, and some of the other elements, just kind of go with it. So a lot of this stuff, really don't overthink it. Now if you look at this stuff, there's a couple areas where I sort of missed. I'm going to leave those like sort of white and a little bit under there, because I'll probably do a couple layering. I might do some washes and just kind of really have fun with these. So don't rule out using Liquitex paints out of tubes. These are a great way to do dry brushing. It's a great way to buy a lot of paint without burning through any of your, airbrush paints, because you can use airbrush paints with a paintbrush too as well. But it's good to pick up some bottles of these. They're durable. They just take a little bit longer to dry because they're a little bit thicker. But it's great for stuff like this. So you can water these down. You can use them through the airbrush too if you get the right consistency where it's kind of like milk. And it's really good to use. But these are just great for dry brushing, doing textures, doing all kinds of stuff with bases and stuff like that. So I put a little bit of green in my container here. This is the top of the container. And just get yourself a fan brush, or any other kind of brush you want. And just kind of start having fun with it. The idea is I don't want these to be like pure, like bright yellow, bright green popping out in your face. We want to try to have like sort of an off green, a little bit more natural looking. So I'll probably do some washes after I do a little bit of this on top. But basically, you just grab your, dry brush and just grab your green. Grab a towel, just kind of throw that over there. And then you just dry brush. You just kind of start bringing out the leaves, and you run with it. Now, depending on what kind of leaves you want, if you want to do, what you would call brighter leaves, if you want to do darker leaves, whatever you want to do, you can run with it. If for some odd reason I feel that it's too bright, I can wash it down with some, maybe like some green wash or something, which we probably will do. But right now I just want to do some dry brushing. I just want to get some color on it. Just kind of want to run with it and have fun. So that's pretty much it. It's just kind of layering. But we'll come back when I start to do the next step. But what I want to do is I want to kick on some music. Can't do that on YouTube, of course. And just sit here and kind of go through this. And then I'm going to do the rock part of the base. And just keep going and just start getting color on all this. Okay, so we're going to keep working on the rocks now. So as you saw is we had our base color down, which is the darkest of the rock. We have this color right here, which I use for the eyes. Just this is getting older paint, so I figured let's use this. So we dry brushed that on there. And then on top of that, we use some Titan buff. So the idea is with rocks is there's a lot of variation of colors in rocks. It doesn't have to be just one solid color or one dry brush and you're done. You just keep adding colors, you keep dry brushing, you keep blending, and you just kind of keep going and going and going till you get some kind of rock feel to it and you bring out a lot of the texture. So right now we have a lot of free flex transparencies. We have, which this is, hold on, gotta get the glasses down. So this is a brown tint. This is a purple tint, and then this is a black tint. So what I'm going to try to do is with the black and purple, I'm going to try to create like a Payne's gray, sort of with the garage kit colors I used to use a lot for rocks. Since they don't have that anymore, we're going to try to mix up our own. And a little bit of the brown, kind of mist it in there with the airbrush. Just sort of kind of just throw it in, let it bleed, let it just spray on some areas. Kind of just have fun with it. Then what we'll do is we'll hit it with a little bit of Texas dull coat to sort of lock in those transparencies a bit, let it dry a bit, and then come back and we'll do a little bit more dry brushing, and then maybe we'll do some more transparencies, washes, or whatever. It just kind of keep going back and forth, keep layering and have fun with it. Try not to overthink it. Try not to be like, okay, I got to get this spot, this, that. Just kind of like let it go, let the paint go wherever, and just kind of let it go random. So we'll grab our airbrush right now, and what we'll do is we will throw a little bit of water in here with that alcohol, just a little bit in there. And then what we'll do is we'll take some of our black, put that in there, and then we do a little bit of the purple. You could put the blue in there, but I feel that the purple works a little bit better with these colors because it doesn't have that super blue. And then just make sure it goes, kick on our booth, and just kind of hit it, you know. Like I said, I'm not really going too crazy, just kind of hitting it in areas. Over. You could darken in some areas if you want to, between the rocks. A little underneath the tree. Like I'm spraying kind of heavy there, a little bit lighter over in here. The idea is just to kind of let it bleed a bit. Alright, so then we'll go into our brown, mix it into the color we already have there. Mix it around a bit. And hit the brown in some areas. Now I would put green in the rocks, but since the tree leaves are going to have some green, I don't want too much in there. I'm not worried about any marks on the tree because the tree will get done later. I don't care if I do a little bit too extra in some areas. Doesn't really matter. I think that's good. So now that that's done, what we do is we'll take our Texas dull coat. Dull coat sort of seals it, melts it, and also kind of helps it dry a little bit faster. Not much, but a little bit. So just kind of seal it up a bit. So I'll let this dry a little bit because we did hit it with some stuff, and then we're going to go back and we'll do some more dry brushing. So it's kind of like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, layer and layering, and just have fun with it. Alright, so at this point I'm pretty happy with where the rock is. We're going to stop where I'm at right now. So what I want to do is, we have the basic colors, we have some, you know, shading, we got some blends, all this stuff going on. So what I want to do is I want to work on the tree branches right now. So I'll mask this off and I'll do dry brushing and all this stuff up here. And then we're going to leave it alone. So what I want to do is get basic colors down on this stuff, get basic colors on all the other stuff, and then once the figure is done, I can actually work on the bottom of the base because I like to use the base for holding up the figure first. And then once that's done, I can put all the elements on the base, and what I can do is I can figure out, okay, maybe I need to make the rock a little bit lighter, maybe I need to make it a little bit darker, I need to blend it in with the base and kind of go from there, so I can get everything together and sort of like plan it out a little bit more. So it's just like basically adding more color and getting stuff done, and then just getting a little bit extra steps done, so this way when the whole base is put together, I can figure out what to do. Because, you know, once the figure is done, you know, once Psylocke's done and we have her on the base, I might say, okay, this rock is sort of fighting with the color a little bit and it needs to be darker or it needs to be lighter. You know, I need to kind of play with it a little bit more and figure out what to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do the tree branches right now, try to make it a little bit of a specific color, and then just keep plugging away. Okay, so for the little light post that I'm working on, I guess what the factory did is they actually primed this up with white. So I'm just going to leave it white and I'm going to do some washes. So we're going to go back to some of this Freak Flex. So we got the black tint and the purple. I'm going to just try to use mostly the black tint. I want to see how this sort of works with like one drop of the purple. I don't want to put too much in there. A little bit of this water. And I just want to see how this is going to work. It might fail, but whatever. Get a towel and just kind of see how this kind of goes over here. It goes into the details okay. I think because the idea is I don't want the light post thing to be like too rocky. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I'm just kind of experimenting. This had some stain on it. Actually, that's not. That can't be. Might not hurt it that much. I don't know. I'm just kind of seeing where the stain goes and how it flows and. Yeah, see the Freak Flex stuff is okay, but it's not super great. I think I'm going to try something else. Let me grab some other colors here and figure out what. So this is a gray from fantasy games. I never really used this stuff too much. I tried using this stuff in the past. I'm not really a fan of it. So I'm going to see what happens when we take a little bit of the watered down and throw it on here. A little bit thicker paint, so wiping it off, it kind of stains it what I was trying to go for. So we're trying to just like stain it. So I think the transparency stuff doesn't really connect to this stuff too well. So the idea is just to kind of stain it, leave that some of that white there. Yeah, it's a little bit more what I was trying to go for. Okay. So we might have to do it a few times. There's a little bit of a crack here, so when I'm ready to kind of attach all this, I might drum all this a little bit out and add a little bit of ease in there. just to kind of get a feel. But like, I'm not worried about getting this on my fingers. That's going to help, trying to help stain it in a sense. Stuff like this, I don't really sit here and panic and worry about, oh God, am I going to do this right or wrong? How's it going to look? Just kind of roll with it and have fun. Try not to overthink things. Because worst case scenarios, I could always hit it with some lighter color and go over it again. As long as I'm not painting thick where it's like bleeding on the statue and it's like, you know, it's like dripping and it's going to dry caked up, you can always kind of paint over it. So I want this to be sort of, you know, like this piece might not turn out as good, but we'll see. Just kind of keep staining, keep wiping it down, seeing how it, like, you know, the pieces will look, and then do the same thing with this one. Now I'm actually splattering a little bit, so always make sure you don't have anything important next to you, whether it's you know, clothes if you're worried about your clothes, or another statue that's been painted, or something you're priming up, or anything special. So you don't want to dirty up anything that's splashing. But it seems like this primer is taking this paint pretty well. Make sure we get all of the crevices. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and I'll do another layer, and then we'll dry it, let it do a layer, and then we'll probably start doing highlights afterwards. So I want to keep it like this rocky. And a little bit of that stain stuff that I messed up on, it helps. So that's kind of a good thing that happen once in a while. Sometimes mistakes make things easier. Yeah, so you see as I keep on adding it on and then drying it off, it's kind of bringing it out. Alright, so let this dry a little bit, and then keep going. Alright, so what I did is I sealed this up after I worked on it just to give it a nice good coating with a duplicolor dull coat. But I just feel it's too dark. I don't want it to be this dark. I want it to be a little bit lighter. So we're going to use some of the Titan Buff. See if this kind of lightens it up a bit. Let's see. And we're going to mix it with a little bit of the gray. I gotta go very lightly with this. Don't want to do too much. Because I want to make sure that this doesn't look like the same colors and sort of as the rock, which it's pretty much not. Because the rock is going to get a little bit tweaked anyway once we get the base going. But I just want to get this up and get this basically lightened up a bit. The problem is I don't want to do just pure white on it, but I don't want to do this Titan Buff on it. Just want to kind of lighten it up a bit. Because of like black, you know, you don't want to put black paint purely in everything, because it kind of muddies it up. But same thing with white, you don't want to put pure titanium white on everything. At least I try not to. Only if I do, I try to tone it down. But at least with this stuff, it's kind of like an off-white, so it kind of gives it a little bit more color. Yeah, it's definitely lightening it up some. So what I'll do is I'm going to keep trying to build this up a little bit here and there, trying not to go too much. At some point, if I feel it needs to be a little bit lighter, I might put a drop or two into this Titan buff with white, but I still need it to be an off-white. I don't want to be pure. Okay, we're going to start painting up the base. Now, if you look at the original artwork color render and I guess the production, there is like a lot of green, like moss and stuff growing. I'm going to add that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add it in a different way. I'm going to mix up some Ace Fix-It, but I'm going to use a lot of safety solvent with it and get it really like, you know, almost pasty. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add green paint into it, and I'm going to make like a sort of green paste sort of you know, sculpting material, and I can dab it on and put it where I need to create moss or some kind of like, you know, green stuff on these, you know, moss, grass, or whatever you want to call it, and without trying to force it onto the paint item, because it, like, this looks like rocks to me, but there really is nothing there that looks like, you know, grass is growing on it. There's like no detail, and over here as well. So the only detail is kind of like around here. So I figure what I'll do is I'll sculpt it onto the item and I'll add it to where I want. Then I can start like blending in the base and all the elements together, kind of making, you know, fill in these areas, make these different color rocks like they're, you know, like walking and stuff or whatever. And just kind of go with it. Now, as far as the base, what I did is I hit it with some primer and I hit it with a gloss black. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do sort of a dark texture on it. I don't mind like black bases, and I do like them, but sometimes lately I'm kind of like just a little bit of a subtle like sponge work or a little bit of a texture, but keeping it dark makes it just pop a little bit better than just pure like gloss black. Sometimes I feel that the gloss black works and sometimes I don't, but for this one I want to give it a little bit of life around the base, but nothing too crazy. And then what I'll do is for this light post here, I'll add a little moss and stuff around it in certain areas too. You'll see how it works. But we're pretty much running toward the end of it, but I just want to add more. And then once kind of that's on there, and while I'm working on it, I'll start adding some washes underneath the, you know, branches up around here. Maybe add a little bit more washes there. Try to just bring everything together and get it to, good. Now, there was some petals and stuff that sort of came with the piece that you can add. I'm not really a fan of those, and I don't want to put those anywhere on the base. So I'm just going to keep it like this, because one of the things is, I like the dioramas, and I like people who do all that moss stuff where they like spray glue and they put that real like mossy stuff on there. But the only problem is I feel with statues, they deteriorate over time, and then also if you pack them and ship them, or you pack them to move, that stuff sort of starts to break apart and it becomes really messy and gets everywhere. So I try to keep everything sculpted in like really, really like hard like resin and make it work rather than adding that other stuff. So that's kind of the goal. So let me get that mixed up and we'll start doing some paint work around here and everything and just kind of keep flowing with it and get it to look like a really nice scenery. Alright, so we're going to start slapping color down on here. So these rocks I want a little bit darker, so I have some of that gray, some of this black and stuff, and just kind of get some. Now you might be wondering, you know, I did overspray a little bit of the enamel gloss black. It's not going to do anything to the item. If you get a little bit worried about paint sticking to it and stuff, you can hit it with some of that, whatchamacallit? I don't know, brain fart here. The adhesive promoter, the clear primer from Duplicolor. That'll go on there pretty well. So once again, it's just adding color. What I might do is add a little bit of a brown or so to this. Not brown, but more of a... Let's mix up in a second once we get the color down. So, got a little bit of raw sienna here. Some of these bottles are starting to run out. Starts to give it a little bit of a greenish tint because raw sienna's got some yellow in there. So that's that basic color. And what we'll do is we'll get our bigger fan brush. Actually, no, we don't need the fan brush. We'll get this color here. Let's throw some green down. Gonna mix it with black. Normally I don't like to use black, but I want this sort of a darker area. And just kind of. So we'll do is we'll pull these two parts out for now. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and start adding this color all around. It's going to be a little bit tedious and we'll come right back. Alright, so I was actually a little mistaken. I realized that looking at the factory prototype paint up, there is actually some moss all over this stuff. So I remembered now that in the bag of this kit, I did get a little baggie of cloth stuff, or like, you know, that mossy stuff. I think I threw it away because I think the bag was actually opened, or sort of opened. And like I said, I don't really like using that stuff anyway, but we're going to do that anyway. We'll get that on there. So we're going to work on the rocks right now. So we have a little bit of our white paint. We have some of these other colors here, so we could kind of give it a little bit of a brownish red look. And sort of make sure we do some dry brushing and just kind of get these rocks a little bit detailed up. But looking at the factory paint up and stuff, I'm gonna add a lot more grass. You know, we're gonna really make this pop a little bit as best as we can. You don't really need to go far. Like, once there's a basic color down, you know, it's just some dry brushing and stuff, you can really bring out the details without trying to, you know, and a little bit of this green coming over, it's not the end of the world. And just bring it out. That's sort of all you need to do. It's not too crazy. And you let the colors bleed a little bit. I don't know if there's really, really crazy defined like details, you can kind of do that. But I think like that rock right there looks pretty good. Like I said, I don't want to go too crazy and go all, you know, try to match those pieces. So what I think I will do though is add a little bit more of this red oxide. Give these rocks a little bit more reddish look. And then we'll go back to the white with a little bit of the grayish. Alright, so that's a little too light, so then we'll go back to this gray. And we'll hit it with the gray a little bit. Tone it back down. We'll go back to the white. And then, like I said, if you go overboard on a little of this stuff, or you hit a little too much white, there's always washes you could go once everything is down. throw some washes in there, hit it with a little bit of the, airbrush, and really like kind of dull it down if you need to. So it's all about just layering. That's a lot of the stuff I learned in like art school. Just layer, let stuff bleed, kind of run with it. You don't have to go too crazy. Don't worry about, oh my god, this part isn't perfect, before you just kind of keep laying colors down and kind of play with it. And then once we start adding all that grass and stuff with that, the eaves, it's going to take up a lot of over this. It's going to go over it, and we're going to kind of really, make it a little pop a little bit more. Okay, so now that we got that done, what I'm going to do is trying to think, we're going to be throwing a lot of that grass on there, so the base is actually kind of good where it's at, really. Because once we start mixing up that eaves and we start trying to pull it in there and make grass and really beef it up in certain areas, that'll be the highlight grass and stuff. Because like I said, I'm looking at the piece that was factory paint. At least I think this is the factory paint up, unless it was somebody else's paint up. We could go in there and really have some fun with it. Let's see. So looking, yeah, they put a lot of moss all over the place. So we're going to be really mixing up a lot of eaves, which is good. So this is a good base. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and start getting the eaves mixed up, and then we can start slapping that on there all over the place and really start bringing it together. Okay, so we have our Fix-It sculpt, which I'm probably going to need more, but I'm going to mix up a little at a time, and then we got a bunch of our safety solvent. Now, be careful with the safety solvent not dripping onto the paints, because the paint will kind of eat up the paint a bit. So basically, we're just going to mix up our Fix-It. Now, the reason why I'm using the Fix-It basic colors, because it's like, basically white grayish color, as you can see. And the idea is just to kind of keep mixing it, get it soft, get it in there. I want to mix some green paint with it. Now, the problem is with the green paint, it sort of starts to the acrylic starts to dry, but if you mix it up a little bit and stuff, it will work. Now, if you really want to pass this like type of a process I'm doing, you can just order a container of green Fix-It, and you can just run with that. Or if you're the one that would rather paint it once it's on the item, you can do that. So if you want to sit there and you want to, put the Fix-It on there, create a whole bunch of like, areas that you would paint, you can do that. But I like to kind of do this stuff. So as you can see, adding the safety solvent and just keep going like this, it starts to get really soft. It's easier to mix. And it starts to just kind of keeps going. Now, I have 3 old paintbrushes because I like to keep all my old paintbrushes in a container because you never know when you get to something like this. So it's definitely mixed up pretty well, but we're going to keep adding the safety solvent. Keep getting it. We're going to try to get this really soft, like really, really fresh bubble gum that you're chewing, and it's just getting all that softness before it starts getting tougher. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But if you keep just adding a little safety solvent, keep getting in there, you get softer. You don't have to pour it all in there, but I do have that picture up on my computer screen. See, alright, so now we're starting to get a little tacky onto our gloves. So we're getting to that point where it's almost there. Now there's other stuff you can do this type of process. If there's other kind of like putties and stuff that you can add a little paint to and slap on there, you can do that too. But we're trying to get this too pasty. So it's really, really soft stuff. Okay, so kind of where we're at. So we take our paint bottle. Gonna use this green, and basically just mix this into here. So it's gonna get nasty. It's gonna get all see, it's really tacky. It's kind of hitting all over the place. Do a little more safety solvent. Get in there. Because the acrylic's going to dry too. So it's not like it's like, oh my god, the acrylic won't, the acrylic will dry too. So, alright, so we have this. I'm going to take this glove off without trying to get this stuff all over the place. Alright, get that off. Alright, so we have some of this on our hand. So what we can do is we sort of just kind of just keep going around the item. Just kind of like this. Just kind of. This is pretty much it. So I'm going to sort of get organized a bit more. And we'll just go a fast video. It's just a matter of taking this, with the glove. And what I should do is I should probably take some of this paint. Put it there just in case. Probably should have planned this a little bit better, but it's fun to get messy a bit. Get that picture back up on the screen. Yeah, and there is some areas where it's lighter greens and darker greens. So, like I said, I go back in there and I'll mess with that. Let's get some safety solvent over here. And this is what we're gonna do. Just gonna keep going around. Just keep at. Now, the one thing you gotta be careful of is that we did this. You gotta let the eaves dry. You can't just sit here and accidentally, okay, I'm gonna go over and hit this and do that, and all of a sudden you're smearing the eaves all over the place, and it's becoming a mess and stuff. So it's just a matter of just keep on hitting it, dabbing it, and running from there. Let's see. They put a couple spots like around there. You can hit a little bit more. I'm just trying to make sure that whatever I do, it's not too pointy, because you don't want to hit anything and it's sticking to your finger, hitting it and stuff. And you just keep do that. And that's kind of like sculpting and painting and making a mess at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and hit some music because I really want to get in the zone while doing this tedious work. We'll fast forward it. And then as I'm painting it, I'll probably hit a couple darker areas and stuff with some paint and kind of just keep running with it. But you can see it's just like I'm making a mess. So let's go ahead and do this so I can kind of get in the zone. Alright, so here what I'm going to do is we're going to do a little bit of darker green in some areas. So a lot of this is still curing. It's going to take a while. We'll have to kind of touch some stuff up. But like I said, we're just trying to just bring stuff out. Now, I might have to go back in later and stuff and do some things, but I don't think I really need to. But this is a darker green, so I just kind of want to hit some darker greens in areas. Kind of just go in there with some of the paintbrush. This is a newer, well, not a newer, but like a brush that's not all caked up with the Aves. So it's just a matter of just kind of going in here and just darkening some areas, and so this way the lighter areas kind of pop a little bit and just kind of go around. So I'm going to go around and do that and see how this looks. But I'm really happy with where a lot of this stuff does. Like I said, I'm looking at the way they did the item for the factory paint up, but I wanted to kind of do my own take. So I threw a lot of the Aves in certain areas and really kind of caked it up and make it look mossy. So like going back in here now and hitting this with the brush will kind of help define it a little bit more. And we'll just darken up some stuff. Alright, so it's the next day. Everything cured up pretty good. I pulled stuff off. You see a lot of little marks here, but that stuff's all hidden with the pieces on top of it. So what I did right now is in this container, I have a little bit of matte varnish, some Mars Black, and then also this Turbo Dork stuff, which is, Okay, so next day, pulled off all the pieces, we're looking good. So right here, this is called Turbo Dork, Turbo Shift Paint, and I forgot what color this is. Let Them Eat Cake. I'm not really sure what color it is, but you can see it sort of goes from purple to like a red. I got some Mars Black and I got some matte varnish in here onto the container and this stuff over here. And all I'm doing right now is I'm going to go around the base and sort of like sponge around it. The reason why I'm doing this is for a few reasons. One, this kind of base is not really super perfect. And I tried to clean it up as best as I could, but this resin's a little bit weird. So what I'm doing right now is it's kind of like flattening it down and giving it a little bit of a texture. And I'll probably hit it with some more matte varnish afterwards. But it's just a matter of kind of just hitting this in these colors. I'm not really trying to make this super, you know, like pearlized like that Turbo Dork stuff or whatever it is. It's just kind of adding a texture around this base, and then I'm going to dull it down. I don't want it to be too shiny, but I don't want it to be like just boring flat. Just kind of adding a little bit around it. Because I did hit some marks with some green around areas, and it kind of helps me kind of blend it, you know, a little bit. The matte varnish will help sort of like take away that shine. I mean, if that's what you're looking for, of course you can like buff it out. You give it a really nice good gloss coat and kind of run with it. But I like to try to make things not pop as much because, you know, a lot of this is kind of like flat. The character doesn't really have a lot of shine on it. So I feel that with a specific base like this, if this is like glowing shiny black, it might take away from your eyes looking at the character. But if it's like a really shiny character and it's got armor and stuff and it really pops, then maybe that would be different. But a little bit of that, just like that Turbo Dork, like, you know, metallic-y pearl stuff, just kind of helps the base a little bit. But once you dull it down, it's really not, you know, super potent. And that's kind of what I'm doing, just kind of like going around here and just doing this. And I think after this, the next step, we're pretty much almost done. It's a matter of I got to do a little bit of underneath her feet to kind of get that black underneath her feet for the shoes. Kind of didn't really do too much of that. Got to clean that up, and then I got to add the eye decal into her one eye, which is very straightforward. If you watch any of my videos for eye decals, it's pretty much just doing that. And that's pretty much it. I think, you know, well, you know what we also have to do? We have to add a little bit of glow to her hand. So we'll kind of get that done next for the pieces of her side blade and sword. And then I think we will finish this out. But I'm going to let this dry. And then, like I said, I'll go over this with some of that matte varnish to the airbrush to really dull it down. Because, like I said, I don't want that to be too shiny. I really want to kind of dull down. But as it starts to dry, it's kind of hard to see in the light. You sort of get a little bit of that Turbo Dork stuff. It's kind of there, but it's not there. And that's kind of like what I was going for. And it gives a little bit of a texture. Kind of just makes it a little bit different. Alright, so let's get those hands set up, and then I think we could close this out. Okay guys, she's all finished up. I'm pretty happy with the outcome. This was actually a real fun paint up. I like the idea now of trying to do future Psylocke in sort of this texture. It feels a little bit better for her, almost. The spandex look is good, because I've done a lot of those spandex looks in the past. But I think adding a little bit extra works for her. So I would like, this is kind of like a shout out to anyone who wants to sculpt a Psylocke, if you're a 3D sculptor or a regular sculptor. Try to go more with like a leather look. I really like how they did these, like, you know, little seams and stuff, and they kind of created this. Like, I'm almost like, you really didn't need to do a whole armor thing. I would have liked to maybe even seen it just all like this kind of like texture with all these seams, and kind of do a cool design here of like a basic leotard. And then adding this texture, like if you did it in the 3D program where it was like a leather texture, I think would look pretty cool. And it's something different, you know. Throughout the years, every time I painted up a Psylocke, it was always that latex, not the latex look, it was a spandex look. But now I'm trying to do more stuff like this, just to kind of change up the paint ups, change up the sculpts, make it look a little bit different. But this worked out pretty good. I really, really like the way this came out. But I still like the design, though, how they did the front of this. If you want to know more about it, if you made it this far into the video to the end, I did do a lot of live streams where I actually customized the whole crotch area, the booty area, because the legs attached to the kit. I redid the chest area, and the head is that one of the heads that came with it, because there was 3 heads with 3 hair sculpts, but I like this head the most, but I wanted to create my own hair flowing. And then as far as the side blade up on that right arm, that held a metal sword, so I broke it, I swapped out the hand, and I did the side blade. So she's got all side blades instead of the metal arms and stuff. So there's no real change of stuff on this, like change of arms or head. It's just basically what you see is what you get. And I think this worked out the best. But this was a lot of fun. A lot of fun working on this. Really, really cool sculpt. I like the anatomy on it. This is kind of what drew me to this sculpt to pick up it. I like the anatomy. I like the figure on her. It felt a little bit more realistic, and it felt a little bit unique. You know, a lot of sculpts out there for superhero stuff, sometimes you look at like a male statue or a female statue, and they're always kind of the same. But like companies and people are starting to like give personalities to the face sculpts. But I think this is kind of like a body sculpt where it's got a personality to the body. And that's kind of what was a little bit more fun with this one. The base is kind of cool. The base isn't overly done, but it does tell sort of a story, so it worked out. Now, I know the base came with a butterfly, and it came with like leaves you can put on the thing. I didn't want to include those. I wanted just to keep it this way, and I think it worked out pretty good. She kind of really popped out from the base. It's kind of more fresh than, you know, like her being a ninja. It's kind of more of like, I guess you could say it's almost like daylight I guess, because of the way the leaves and everything are. So I'll give you guys a nice booty shot because I redid all that and everything. Sash worked out pretty good too, doing the flowing sash. Hair worked out pretty good as well. Like the design of the hair. I like the way I painted it up. See, some hair sculpts I think need a little bit of a pearl in there to make it a little bit silky. But with Psylocke and the black hair with the purple, I think it's more of a flat look for her, which works better. But you know, if I was going to do like a blonde hair or maybe even a white hair, add a little bit of a pearl in there just to kind of make it, give it that silky hair look. But with Psylocke, adding a little bit purple in there with some pearl, I think would fight with the outfit and the sash. So that's kind of more of a flat look, which I think works pretty good. Texture works good too. Base looks great. Pretty much breaks down too very well. So, you know, I did all these tree pieces up here are redone with metal rods. So this is all kind of re-secured if you watch the live streams. Because I was afraid that this might bend. So there's a rod going around in here. There is pegs going into these pieces so they won't like snap off like the original sculpt I was kind of worried about. I always like to take that extra step. But these come off the base, the rocks come off the base, everything breaks down, the arms come off, head comes off, all that stuff. Face worked out pretty good. I had a little bit of a lip gloss at the end, as you can see. I had a little bit of a lip gloss. I like the way the one eye is showing, the other one's kind of hidden. It's hard to get into that other eye underneath the hair, but it worked out. But really good. One thing I would suggest, I guess if anyone is sculpting Psylocke, if you want to do this leather texture and stuff, go with it. But I would think about adding a little bit extra to these little straps that are on the arms and the legs. I've always kind of had a weird thing about Psylocke, like, alright, she's got gloves, she's got leggings, but why are these straps in here and how do they stay on her? So one thing I would suggest is maybe if you add a little bit of a clasp or a little bit of a, maybe a little bit of a button thing or something just to make it look like, okay, she put it up on her arm and it's staying up there. That's just kind of one of those afterthoughts now that I'm looking at it. But it's just one thing that always bothered me about Psylocke. It's a good design, but I always say maybe there should be something there to be like, okay, well, how are those staying on her leg? But that's pretty much it. That is the Psylocke paint up. Let me know what you guys think. She will be up for grabs. I will be putting it up on my website or on eBay. Depends on where anyone's interested. Just hit me up through my contact page. These are just one of these projects I like to do. I pick up. I thought the sculpt was amazing. It'd be a fun work in progress for live streams. And then what I do is usually sell it off, fund some other project, and just keep the cycle going. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks for hanging out this far. I know it's a long video, but I just wanted to give a little bit more for people in the Patreons too, just to kind of give a little bit more in depth on painting. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.